The target audience for the program is the African youth, and with the birth of the Climb podcast, their stories of triumph will be celebrated.
Our partners.
These podcasts is a fulfillment of China's media group's vision to provide youth of the continent with a platform to tell their stories.
By featuring stories of African youths in the podcast, this podcast will also seek to encourage more young Africans abroad to contribute their skills and knowledge to finding lasting solutions to some of the major challenges facing the continent.
There are millions of stories to be told. In all honesty, we are already thinking about how we can ensure that we tell as many of these stories as possible. And part of the approach to this is that it's going to be driven by the young people themselves.
When I looked at the launch of this program, the program for this launch, it spoke about extraordinary stories for African youth. And what does it really mean when you say extraordinary? To me, when we say extraordinary, it speaks about stories of resilience, stories of hope, stories of success, stories of challenges, but never giving up. And that's what truly resembles our African youth.
Martin Spinelli, a professor of podcast and creative media, gives a whole new perspective on media habits with interesting data on podcasting in Africa.
The key demographic takeaways are that podcast listeners in Africa are younger, mostly female, more highly educated, more urban, and have more disposable income. Obviously, this is a very attractive demographic, a very attractive set of people for advertisers. But for its female majority listenership, this picture mirrors podcast listening demographics in the US and in Europe.
Chairman of Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, speaks on the essence of the podcast, says it will be far-reaching, especially in addressing the continent's many challenges.
The world that we live in today and faces more significant challenges than the one I grew up in. So much more than ever, we need that youthful energy, the ingenuity, the courage, the passion to face up to the profound challenges that we face and to proffer creative solutions to them. Here lies the significance of this podcast that we are launching today. Through the stories that will be told in this podcast, we will be celebrating those young Africans at home and in the diaspora who have summoned up courage to take up these challenges. By telling their stories, we'll also be inspiring legions of other young Africans to take up the mantle and to tap into their own creativity and ingenuity.
The founder of the Feroz Institute and the London School of Economics and Political Science, Mr. Feroz Lalji, explains the goal for the co-production with Channels Television.
Climb podcast will reach millions of people in Africa and around the world in a diaspora. This is a great opportunity for the youths of Africa to tell their stories and issues that concern them. I'm delighted to see this great initiative between LSE and Channels TV, and my congratulations to Mr. John Momo for driving this initiative.
The Climb podcast is a 20 to 30 minute story-shaped production holding fortnightly across all podcast sharing platforms across the world, and is already live on Apple and Spotify. Dari Idu, Channels Television News.